is a central bank. And the central bank is not American, it's not a bank, and there's no reserves in it. And it's the Fed today, in 2021, is the third central bank. And for history, since Jefferson and those guys, they kept saying we cannot have central banks. But because our academic system is basically Marxist, most school teachers are Marxists, they just don't know it. Lenin said if you want to destroy the economy, you want to destroy capitalism, debauch the currency. So in 1971, just before I went to Vietnam, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. But they don't teach you that. You see, our system is communist. And I hate to say that because I'm a Marine, went to Vietnam twice, I fought for this country, went to military school. And today they're talking about reparations. But what history doesn't tell you is that Hitler rose to power on reparations. Why don't they teach us that stuff? So that's why I learned at military school. If you study Marx, Lenin, Hitler, and Mao, you'll see it all over the school system. That's what today's postmodernist education, and postmodernist education actually started in 1930, when out of the Frankfurt School in Germany, they moved over to Columbia University. And Columbia University is the headquarters for Marxism. But they don't tell you that. And so the Teachers College at Columbia University is where the Frankfurt School set up in 1930, which is Marxism. Look at Obamacare. It was Stalin who said medicine is the archstone of socialism, socialized medicine. And education fits into that same category.
Back in 1950s, when I was a real little kid, I was working with my rich dad, who was my best friend's father. He had executives at his company that played the stock market. So this is the 50s and the 60s. And my rich dad said, anybody who's in the stock market's a gambler. And so I don't do business with gamblers. And I still remember that. So when I talk, a lot of my friends are not in the stock market. So this is the point. Back in the 50s and the 60s, prior to 71, when they took the dollar off the gold standard, you could save dollars because they weren't printing it. It was backed by gold. You see, 1944 to 71, you have to look at history. It was really smart to be a saver of dollars. It was also smart. My rich dad didn't really save money. He built projects. He built big projects. But he bought bonds. So the smart money back in the 50s and the 60s was in bonds and savings because they didn't print money. If you can get your head around that one, and so today we're printing 120 billion a month in the U.S. I don't trust the U.S. dollar. I don't trust the Fed. I don't trust the Treasury, and I don't trust our government, and I don't trust Wall Street. If you do, invest your ass off. But what they're doing is they're creating what I call a fake asset. This guy named Schumpeter, I don't know when he was cruising around, but he always said capitalism is a destruction of the weak. Today, you cannot destroy a weak company. It's all BS. You got to be so politically correct. So I have tremendous respect for Elon Musk. I don't drive a Tesla. I drive the loudest car possible, a Ferrari 458. And this is how sick I am. There's a Ferrari 458 and a 488. The reason I bought the 458 because it makes more noise. I say this often when I looked up how much is a trillion. If you spent $1 a minute, it would take you 32,000 years to spend $1 trillion. 32,000 years. It takes them 1 minute to print $1 trillion. It used to be if you printed, let's say $1 million, the GDP rose by 1,010,000. Today you print $1 million, the GDP only comes up by 7. In other words, we're going further and further in debt. We cannot pay off the debt. And so what they're doing, they print more money, hoping to pay off that debt. It just makes the debt bigger, and this piece of toilet paper worth less. Well, the reason they're talking about inflation or deflation is because way back when I was in the 70s, a true capitalist would let a business fail. Okay, understand that. Capitalism, according to Schumpeter, is that capitalism destroys inefficient companies. So if you suck, the capitalism will wipe you out. You're out of business. So you look at one not too long ago, there was Blockbuster Video, then Netflix came along and they're toast. They're just gone. And so a lot of true capitalists wipes out the inefficient or the obsolete. But for the last so many years, since 1907, really, they've been saving the banks. So the banks are so corrupt, and the reason the Federal Reserve had to come in was to protect the rich bankers. And what they did was back in 2008, there was quantitative easing, which is a very complex subject. But basically, the Fed just prints money and gives it to banks to prevent them from failing. So that's not capitalism. That's Marxism. That's socialism. That's communism. It's called central banks. But since most of our school teachers are communists anyway, they don't know the difference. So what the Fed is trying to do is print tons of debt, like I think 10 trillion this year, to prevent the banks from failing. So they need inflation because they want to pay back the debt with Zimbabwe dollars. Just think about that. So they can inflate the debt, print 10 trillion, then they print, here's $10 billion. This might have bought you an egg when it was good, a boiled egg. So they could pay off the debt with fake money. The reason inflation is going to wipe out people is because the average person is a consumer. But that's because Biden and company and the Fed are protecting the bankers. So that's why I feel for the working class people. I think it's criminal that our school system is part of Marxism. There's no financial education in schools, and it's not a mistake. So the people who are complaining about inflation, just know it's because the Federal Reserve Bank, the U.S. Treasury, which is Janet Yellen, who was also head of the Federal Reserve Bank, they're as corrupt as they come.
Marx had one thing, so it was the abolition of private property. In other words, we could own nothing. So they wanted to take all of our private property away, and it would then go to the state. And that's why when you study communism and Marxism, it's a centralized economy. It's called, in military terms, it's called command and control. I went to military school. So it's a command and control economy where the government tells you everything. And so that's why the Federal Reserve Bank is part of a communist.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.